welcome back to another segment of Beyond the Grassy Knoll. And we have with us today Terry Sylvester. His first show is up in the audio archives. It was called Presidential Selection. And this is Presidential Selection Part 2. And Terry, thanks for coming on back.
Well, thank you, Viz. I was looking forward to this. As nervous as I am, I was looking forward to this.
Just talking to me. So, I'm asking Terry to share this at the outset of the show. It's got really nothing to do with the core of what we're going to speak to. I trust Terry, so I'm going to have him say explain to us what he saw. Was it this weekend or was it late last week? Or?
Yeah, it was late last week.
All right, go ahead, Terry, if you don't mind.
Well, a friend of mine and myself were coming back from some errands, and about a mile up the road, we have some railroad tracks that go over, not a major highway, but one of our secondary highways that run through the county. And as we approached the crossing, the train had already been beyond, so we couldn't get to see the locomotives.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows how long it had gone before we got there. And as we sat there about the third car back, I said to my friend, look at this. It was car after car after car. First of all, it was one of the longest trains I ever saw in my life. It was moving at a fairly slow speed, and every single car had military on it. It was all the brown desert-type painting. It was, there was small Jeeps that have the small windows on the side. There was a lot of troop carriers. They were mostly the troop carriers and those small little Jeeps that they use with tops on them. There was 3 or 4 big tanker cars that said flammable on the side. Everything desert brown now. There was even 3 or 4 cars that had vehicles on them that had the red cross markings on it. And as I said, the train went on and on. But what I pointed out to my friend was us being here in New York State, this train was coming east to west. In other words, it was headed inland.
Yeah.
And I don't know too much about these prison camps that people... I listen to all the shows that probably all of us listen to on the internet. And I listen about the FEMA camps, and I hear this and I hear that. And frankly, I don't disbelieve it. I probably more believe it than disbelieve it. But when you see something like this coming inland, it just makes you wonder what is planned here, you know?
Well, to be a devil's advocate, you could say, well, this might have been some kind of most recent production, and it was being shipped like it is done, every so often, let's say. And that might be the case as well. But I just feel it's interesting that there's that kind of activity, and I'm trying to figure out, as I had told you, this was along CSX tracks, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's a munitions or a manufacturer, if you will, of motor vehicles for military that's somewhere up in upstate New York. I don't know how much is still going on in Brooklyn or in the Bayonne military terminal. But I trust what you say because I trust you.
Right.
But I believe there's a certain kind of increased activity going on. And I caught Steve Quayle on. Somebody sent me a CD of his stuff, and Steve's okay. I think he gets a little bit of overreactionary. But still in all, he was talking about the same old thing about troops along the border or the Chinese and Mexico and all this. And, the one thing I can't understand, Terry, and this is not even meant to be a criticism of Steve, but what I can't understand is I've heard this now for so many years, and nobody's ever gotten any video or photographic evidence. By now, if this is that widely known to people, and Quayle said there were eyewitnesses, I'm like, okay, if there are eyewitnesses, can't they just use their cell phone camera or a cam or something? Or a telephoto?
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I said to my friend, I said, why don't I have a cell phone, Viz. I said to my friend, why don't I have a camcorder or a cell phone on me right now? This was phenomenal, But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. But at this point, if something is happening, if people are out there and they have an inclination that they that they're seeing something and they know something's up. I don't know why in this day and age, even if it's that cell phone, if you have one of those, with a camera, they just take something. But until I start seeing it from people who can show tangible evidence from eyewitness, who are giving eyewitness accounts, and here I am having you on, and I don't mean to be hypocritical, but with the stuff, especially with the troops on the border, that gets a little creepy.
Yeah.
And I wish this could be confirmed because that gives you an idea, to a certain extent, how much time you got left.
I tell this story every once in a while. As you know, I tell stories here. This was at least 20, 25 years ago. So current events hadn't caught up to where we are today. And I had a dream, and I was not too far from where I am right now. Where I live right now, I grew up in this area. My family still lives about a mile and a half away, the family home. And in this dream I had, I was farther down, maybe about 2 miles from my house, my family's house. And there was rows and rows and rows of thousands of tents between where I was and my parents' home. The tents were all Chinese soldiers. And in my dream, I was trying to figure out how I could get through this massive city of tents they had set up to get to my family, to make sure everything was okay. And that was basically the end of the dream. And I talked about it for probably several days after I had it. And it was so vivid, it never left me. And now what we talk about with the Chinese troops on the border, etc., it just makes me think, you know what I mean?
Something's up.
I'm not trying to tell anybody I'm a prophet, Viz, but come on, it's a dream I really had. And did you ever hear anything? We're getting crazy here now. Did you ever hear anything about weapons, caches that are strategically placed all over our country that we don't know about, but the people that we might not want to know about it do know where they are, and they are stashed for that purpose only in case of...
right.
Let's not even...
Ready to use.
Pardon me?
I said ready to use.
Ready to use. Let's not even talk about what we mean by that. It's scary,
But lately, going emailing people back and forth, talking about the events that have to happen, and the reason why it's been a little bit more in the forefront of my mind is because with what has happened in the 4 months already in 2008, if people look back at what a rapid and kind of, I wouldn't say devastating, but deep cut they've taken to their financial lives, and now on the heels of that, of course, now you had the gas price hike based on the oil barrel per barrel. You also have, let's see, what else do we have? The devaluation of the dollar, and I guess it being unpegged from a number of commodities, and this whole bit about with the gas, as you know, I mean, not only do you pay more at the pump, but for everything that's transported by that kind of fuel, you're paying for the hike in those prices as well.
Exactly.
Right, and then now the second thing they've done is now they've made the first mention about food shortages. Although what's been kind of shielded from the public are the actual food fights, food riots they're having across the world. So all of a sudden, it's a major hit for you with gas. It's a second hit that you're paying for it everywhere else. Now you've got also an exacerbated situation with food as it starts to, quote, get more scarce. Now that's getting hit again. Now, how much percentage of people's income has already been, grabbed?
Well, I'm sure you can second this. It's hit us here.
Yeah.
Me and my family here. It's hit us. I mean, we gas up now, and we haven't gone for rides in a long time anyway. But we don't go for a ride, period, now, unless we're going to work, we're going to the store.
Yeah.
We about a week from, not last Saturday, but the weekend before, we had to go shopping, and we went by this little, your convenience store type. It's independently Middle Eastern owned, and it's a Exxon station, but it also has a little, beer and potato chips inside. And we left Oh, it was probably about 11:30 in the morning when we went by it, and I said, look, they're up to, because we were watching it go up daily. I said, look, they're up to 349.9, so that's 350. So they're up to 349.9, and we kind of like grimaced over that. 4 hours later, when we came back from our shopping trip, we came by the same station. Now, this is a Saturday, Biz. We came by the same station, and it was 359.9. Now, this is a Saturday. What the heck happened on a Saturday that in 4 hours they raised it a dime? This is wrong. People have got to start getting together and do something about this. At this point, as far as the gas goes, I don't know what we can do other than don't use it anymore except to go to work in the store. I've always said that when you don't use something, it comes down fast. You know, I've seen other products that I've been involved in that we don't need to delve into here. But when they started escalating the prices on them, and that, this is going back into the 70s, I kept telling my friends, don't buy it. You know, and when they sit on all this, you watch how fast it'll come down. But no, everybody had to have it, you know. Everybody had to be the first in the neighborhood to own this. And then, you know, once they got you, then they feel free to do it every 2-3 years in anything, you know. So.
Well, in this case, I think what we're really dealing with without knowing it, and some claim that it's been like this since '73, and that is, I mean, whether we think we have a free market economy or not, our economy has been planned, and like I said, some would say you can give evidence that it's been like this since '73. Now with this whole situation, trying for consumers to somehow, some way boycott, I think is probably going to be, you know, I mean, when it comes to gasoline especially, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to tighten the thumb screws down to the oligarchs. But I want to just mention one other thing, too, not to build into any kind of hysteria, but this bit about detention camps has been denied widely, and yet on the same hand that, you know, they're out there. People have seen them. I was getting emails from somebody who was in the medical department, if you will. He was a civilian, but he was working at Fort Dix and was talking about what Dix had been turned into after, of course, it was kind of downsized. It was kind of a major embarkation and disembarkation point for the military. And, you know, in 55, when I had read the transcripts of a speech given at at Harvard, boy, am I horrible today, at Harvard, by John Lord O'Brien. And in it, he was, in fact, John Lord O'Brien, when you were a wee little person, was actually, I believe he was Attorney General of the Western District of New York, which should be out by your way. He was...
It is, it's right where I am.
He was the head of, I believe, at least the New York Republican Party, and he was a failed gubernatorial candidate. But the guy...
Say the name one more time?
It is John Lord O'Brien, but it's spelled B-R-I-A-N. O'Brien.
Okay, I got you.
And he gave a 2-day speech. One of the titles of the two parts was Security in an Age of Anxiety. And in it, he said, don't anybody tell you that there aren't detention camps. Now, that doesn't seem such of a shocker in 55 because it's only, 10
years after the war. So
yeah, and after the Japanese internment, and also down here in Florida, a place that was an orange juice manufacturing place that housed German soldiers during the war. Obviously, they're foreign POWs, but the Japanese that were interned here were American citizens, and of course that was finally ruled unconstitutional, and they let them go. But now, so he said in 55, they're there. He also, in 68, the editor of, I think it was Look magazine, and I did a show on this too, was Hedgepath, his name was. I think it was 68. And he was writing about detention camps, that they're there, and he gave the locations for them. Now things have changed. So the thing is, they're always there, and they had a chance to use them during Katrina. And there is a woman who goes by the name of Val, who had been on the show. She's attached somewhat to Above Top Secret, that website. And I had seen an account of what she had gone through when they had offered, that her church had offered their retreat in Oklahoma to any kind of exiles from New Orleans. Now, what was not shocking, but what was interesting about her account was just the way that FEMA and the military took the place over and told them the way things were going. They really never did use it for any internees, if you will excuse that word, because that's what we're going to be called, by the way, civilian internees.
They got a name for us, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, people probably have seen this military handbook that's been popped around. I got it off the net. I forget what website it is, but it gave a breakdown to, well, who would be called what. And we are not persons of interest. We are not combatant enemies or whatever. We were called civilian internees, more or less displaced people in this country. It didn't get down to dissidents, let's put it that way. But we were called CIs. So all that stuff is in place. Now, in the Katrina situation, she said for the most part, they really didn't use it. And they had everything prepared, but nothing really happened. And this place, by the way, and I remember this because it is in Durant, Oklahoma, and I've been at Durant a couple times, and Pilot Pete, who flies, commercial, got his aviation degree there. So when I heard Durant, my eyeballs popped out because, I had been there and I was wondering, what the lay of the land looked like, and she did take plenty of photos. So anyway, all this stuff is there. Sooner or later, it's going to be unleashed. It's going to get accelerated throughout 2008, but nothing is going to break loose until 9. You're going to have the presidential elections. You're going to probably have one more Christmas where all the corporations can tell people, buy up.
Everything's going good.
Yeah, right, and then they're going to kick you in the balls come 2009. So, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I was the one that, I asked you to say it on the show.
Even one interesting thing, though, that Fort Dix now is an outpost for their machinery and equipment. I didn't know that till you told me.
Well,
but that's exactly why that train should have been going the other way,
Well, yeah, you weren't shipping it abroad. That's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, they were going inland. And again, like you and I talked before we started to do the show here, I doubt. I can't know what they were doing, but I doubt they were going all the way across country to go to Long Beach, the docks in Long Beach to ship it out. I doubt that.
I'll tell you what. You just reminded me of something, and this could be a yeah but addition to what you just said. In Christmas '79, I had been up in Vermont for 2 years, and I came down for the holidays to Jersey. And I stayed at a friend's house. And while I was there, he got a phone call. It was from his brother-in-law. It was the usual Merry Christmas type phone call,
right.
the yearly phone call you get from the brother-in-law. And I'm listening to my friend's end of the conversation, and something was up. I heard him going, "No, really? Well, why do you think that is?" Da-da-da-da. Okay. Long and short of it is, when the guy gets off the phone, he says, "Well, that's interesting." I said, "What?" He goes, "Well, that was so-and-so who works at the Bayonne military terminal." And he said, they had just gotten done putting out all kinds of armament and vehicles like he said they had not done since the Vietnam War, and that they were shipping it west. And we're like, Lincoln, why is this happening? What's going on that we don't know about, that this is being sent out in, I guess, either in preparation for or whatever. Well, anyway, not long after, the hostage situation occurred in Iran. And there was also, at that time, too, the Russians fighting the Afghanis.
Exactly.
And I didn't know if that had broken out yet, too. I think it might have, but...
right about the same time.
Right.
Yeah,
so
almost the same month, yeah.
So what I was saying... So when this finally did happen, I called back my friend and I said, "Do you think this is what could have been?" And he said the same thing. He goes, "Yeah, but why would they ship it west?" I said, "Because they want to go through the back door. They want to go through the Indian Ocean, not go through the Med, which I assume at that time had more eyes on it, if you will, than coming in the back door." That's my guess.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so, speculation, you can go on forever, but, it's just something that should be said. For nothing else, that you go down on record, and who knows what's going to be going on in other parts of the country, so...
Mm-hmm. Well, that was. I also thought that maybe they were taking them to a military base, to be used on a military base, but there was a lot of equipment there. One of the longest trains, if not the longest I ever saw, and every single car was military. Every single one. And... listen, just to break into another about the election for the rest of this show right here. I want to remind people that you have your show on Friday nights.
The last Friday night of the month.
Yeah, is it the last Friday night? Oh.
Yeah, we're doing Wednesdays.
I thought it was every Friday. It's every Wednesday you have a show.
That's right.
Okay. Well, anyways, last Friday night you had Dave Blimp.
Dave, no last name.
Yeah. Well, I got that on my list too about last name. But anyways, I would suggest to the listeners that if you haven't gone on to Beyond the Grassy Knoll's website yet to listen to that Friday night discussion, it was an excellent show. I just can't recommend it more. And like I emailed you right after the show, which was at 12:30 in the morning, I had taken 3 pages of notes. And I don't do active research into 9/11. I have a ton of research, probably more than I'm letting on, but it's not my bailiwick, especially since there's so many people out there doing it. But I do have some things here that when I listen to all these shows with everybody with their different take, and basically the people who are serious about it, maybe not the truthers, but the people who are serious about it, are basically all down the same vein. Some have a new twist here, a new twist there, but they're basically all down the same vein. But one thing that I want to add to it, and this is for people who are researching it, to take what I'm saying, and if they think there's anything there, to take it another step forward, because I'd love to see this. Now, let me give you some background. In the summer of 2000, I'm with a friend of mine who was Army intelligence, and myself I have an intelligence background myself, but it was all contract. He was Army intelligence. We were at a bar I worked at in the afternoon. I attended bar after I got so-called retired. I was at a bar I worked at in the afternoon, and it was a beautiful summer day. And up on the TV, they had some Osama bin Laden stuff going. And they had the one where he was laying on his side eating what my buddy calls locusts and honey. Did you ever see the one where he's supine on his side and he's eating with his fingers out of a bowl? Did you ever see that one they showed a million times?
I remember that.
Well, it's one of the better ones. And it's better than the one where he's walking on the rocks with his AK and all that. And we're standing there. We've long suspected that Osama was just the rallying point. Now, we didn't, at this point, nobody knows about 9/11 yet. We're still a couple, 3 months away from it. And my friend and I were standing in the bar while this was on up on CNN, and we're just laughing. My friend's going, look at him, he's eating locusts and honey with his fingers in the cave and all that. Well, people in the bar, and remember I worked there, people in the bar know I come off the wall on political subjects, etc. But they were staring at Jim and I with their jaws down, not believing that we were making fun of something that obviously they were taking serious. So, anyways, that's part one of the story. So a couple months, 3 months later, I usually got my TVs going. At that time, I had many TVs. Now I just got down to a couple. That morning of September 11th, I get a phone call, and it's another friend of mine, and said, do you have your this person knows I watch news 24 hours a day. And this person says to me, do you have your TV on? And I said, no, why? And she's all excited. She goes, a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. So I said, all right, I'll get right back to you. So I ran over and fired up all my TVs, and for some reason I put tapes in all of them. And there's a reason why I did that. But anyways, I put tapes in all of them and started recording. I started recording Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. And caught the second crash. Well, as soon as the second one hit, the second one, where a lot of people say they were still in shock. Don't think I wasn't in shock. I mean, that was regardless of what happened there, that was that was an awesome sight that ripped right through you. But as soon as I saw it, I knew that I'm not going to say the whole word, but I knew this was coming right out of London. That was the very first thing. I said, this is the London da-da-das. And so anyways, because I've been following Great Britain and our country, and I've really listened to you with the I-Man and all that, so it shouldn't be a surprise to you. But I put more stock in Great Britain actually running this country than a lot of other people may. I just think they do. And, excuse me. So anyways, right away I thought it was the Londons. So from that point on, I kept my tapes going, which I talked to you about. I've got, from about the second plane hitting on September 11th to about a month, 3 weeks to a month, I got every day, 24 hours a day, tapes of all that first month. Matter of fact, I got 12 sets. And 13 sets altogether. One set I got, and there's 12 other people like me that are sitting low right now, and they're holding on to them just in case something happens. And anyways, as I was following what I suspected is, and I told some friends of mine that day, I said, this came right out of London, man, you know? And of course, and these were educated people, and they gave me a strange look. And but they had been around me so much, they knew that possibly I might have known what I was talking about. So then, as I'm starting to watch us get closer into going into Afghanistan, I'm starting to notice almost all, and it still happens to this day, by the way. I want all the listeners to start paying attention if they'd like. Almost everything that was of any substance on your news reports on TV was all coming off of the BBC or the independent TV network. Almost all of it. Hardly anything came from us. And one of my favorites is when we took the embassy back in Kabul. It had laid vacant for 11 and a half or 13 and a half years. It was one of them, too. But let's just say it was 11 and a half. That's a long time. And this piece, it was done by independent TV, and it was on our 6:30 newses, but it was an independent TV little logo down in the corner, which is out of Great Britain. And they were showing how it was the first time we had been in the embassy in these 11 and a half years, and they brought the cameraman in, and they said it had been ransacked in the 10 and 11 in the years that it had stayed vacant. It had been ransacked by the Taliban. But yet, as they're even saying those words, I'm looking and there's a safe still there. It's not open. And there's a refrigerator or a freezer, and it looked brand new still there. And then they're showing, the cameras are on the desk, and they're showing pictures of the Life and Time magazines and the Life magazines and the Independent Observer, some newspaper, maybe it was the Wall Street Journal, and they're going, and the voiceover's telling you, I think it was John Simpson, as a matter of fact, out of ITV, and they're telling you, Nick Robertson, but we can get into him later, another Englishman, watch those people, they're bad people. They are. The voiceover's telling you, look at the magazines are still sitting here just like they were 11 and a half years ago, because there wasn't a piece of dust on them. They showed a record player. They said, look at this record player was left here. Well, the record player had, first of all, it didn't look like a record player. They called it a record player. And that had a lot of dust on it. But the safe was brand new. It was cleaned off anyway. And if anybody ransacked it, you would think for sure they took the safe. They would take the safe. And they did comment, though, that they did rip up some rugs and take some end tables. They said that. And then they said, and look, it's left just the way it was when the American embassy people left here, and they said, you know what Fanta Orange Pop is?
Yes, I remember that,
Fanta?
Yeah.
They go, and look, they go, and they show it. They go, look, even the Fanta Orange Pop was left here in a hurry 11 and a half years ago. The pop bottle was still a half full with orange pop. It wasn't moldy. It hadn't evaporated or anything. It was truly an embarrassment. This piece should have never been run. I don't understand why other people... I had friends over that night to see it, and they had seen the piece themselves earlier in the day, and they had commented how it even got by them until I pointed it out to them, you know? And it was a total embarrassment. It was fake news, and that's exactly what ITV is known for. You know, ITV was the one that got independent television out of Great Britain back in the Serbia War. They got fined big time for this. They're the ones that made that photo of the he was really skinny Serbian or whatever behind the...
Oh, they faked the shot. He was on the outside, not on the inside.
He was on the outside. It was a fake shot. And that's when I started getting wise to Great Britain, actually. And, then the pictures they show you of when they went into some safe house and outside of Kabul, and the Taliban had all their bomb-making, you probably seen these, you just don't remember them, had all their bomb-making materials up on the wall. And it was all in English. And it goes on and on. Here's one for you also. The weekend of 9/11, prior to 9/11, in other words, that weekend prior, what was 9/11, a Monday or Tuesday, wasn't it?
It was a Tuesday.
Tuesday. That weekend, before that, there was a worldwide photo convention conference in New York City. And unfortunately, I don't have this on tape. Unfortunately. I know I got done saying I ran my tapes around the clock, but sometimes if I slept too long in the morning because I was up all night, a tape would run out on me. And I'm laying on the couch I had set up in my workroom, and there was a guy on the early morning, probably one of CNN or Fox or MSNBC. He was the CEO, chairman of Magnus Photos, and it's one of the world's largest it's like Gamma Press, which we'll get to in a minute. It's like up in Gamma Press's category. And the CEO was on TV, and he was talking about how they had a convention that weekend where all the top photographers in the world were in New York for this convention. Now think about that. I came jumping out of my bed, and I went, what? And I ran over to my TV, and that's when I saw that TV's tape had gone beyond its 6 hours, and I don't have it. But how about you got all the world's top photographers in New York City that weekend? Think about it.
Yeah. And
that's why we have all these pictures, too, you know? Now, Gamma Press. Everybody talks about this. Unfortunately, Gamma Press, if you Google them right now and bring up their website, it's a whole different animal from that night of September 12th at 12:01. I'm sitting in this room I'm telling you about, and I'm doing some work, and I'm keying. I got all 3 being recorded, but I've got the voice going on CNN. I love CNN. It's a criminal news network. I love it. And I'm keying on their show. And I think it's Aaron Brown at the time says, this just then, he said, we have pictures of the first hit. Now, it was funny. Earlier in the day, we had made comments that you'll never see the first hit. I know George Bush did, but we made comments we'd never see it. Because you shouldn't have, right? Well, all of a sudden, I heard him say that, and I look up, and sure enough, we're seeing the first hit. And I see up in the corner, superimposed on the screen, I see Gamma Press. I go, what the heck is Gamma Press? So I Google it right away, and it comes up. Well, their specialty. Now, these Gaudet brothers that everybody talks about, running around New York, filming firemen and et cetera, et cetera. Well, Gamma Press is corporate headquarters. They got satellites all over the world, but their corporate headquarters is France, and the Gaudet brothers are right out of there. And I printed it out as soon as I Googled it, so I got it in my collection of papers. But their specialty is war photography. That's their specialty, Gamma Press. Think about that one.
It's probably just a coincidence.
Yeah, they were just a coincidence. There was a gas leak right there, and they just happened to be filming it, you know. Hey, give me a break. Now, you know, I never heard of Game of Press, but when you start looking up stuff like this, it's ridiculous. Talk about things that are ridiculous. I'm watching TV just before. Matter of fact, I wrote a letter to the editor that got printed up here. I'm watching TV in the end of January of 2003. We went into Iraq, and they were still trying to find the weapons of mass destruction, right?
Right.
And I'm watching the 6:30 news, and they got 3 or 4 guys that are supposedly weapons inspectors standing in front of a rack of missiles. Probably, I'm using my memory right now, probably about 6, 7 feet long, and not very big around, maybe only a 8-inch diameter around, if that. They were rockets, real small missile rockets. And they're looking down the tube of a couple of them with their eyes. They're peeking down the tube. And of one, they got the racks there, and they've got one of them or 2 of them pulled out, and they're looking down the tube. Well, as I look at them, they're standing there in their black leather jackets that a lot of people wear, not motorcycle jackets, but black leather jackets. They got sneakers on, and they don't even have gloves on. So I can't let that go by. I got to write you with a letter to the editor. So, matter of fact, I called it in. I didn't even write it. And I got a hold of our editorial page, letters to the editor, and who at that time, they were still printing me, and my buddy who was intelligence, I told you about, we used to make the paper laugh, but they won't touch us anymore. But at that point, I told Richard, the editor, I said, Richard, I got pictures of it. Plus, it made the papers the next day, too. I said, the picture did. I said, Richard, you got to look. I said, this is phenomenal. What if there was something in there? You know, what if there was really some yellow uranium or whatever the heck they call that stuff? What if it was really in there? I mean, they're standing there in their coats, and it's ridiculous. It's another embarrassment as far as I'm concerned.
To elaborate on the point you made, throughout history, the history, of course, that's suppressed, and that of this country, there has always been a connection hinted at or identified with the city of London. And if you go back to the Civil War, that was instigated by the old world. Yep. And, I mean, the I-Man made a point, I think, that is really representative of what's going on when he went ahead and he appealed to the Vatican for relief of his tax status, well, that of a taxpayer. And then, as the story goes, the Vatican gave his case over to the Attorney General of the United Kingdom, who, on I-Man's behalf, told the IRS, let him go, basically, and sponged him from being a taxpayer. Now, that's a connection right there that tells you quite a bit. In that book that I had read excerpts of last year, that came
politics.
No, this one is from the Rosicrucians out of Quakerstown, and it was called the Meneses Chronicles, or the Man-Isis Chronicles. And the reason why I wanted to read it was what had been sent to me going back to 1913 or whatever, with regard to what's going to happen to allow the capstone to be placed on the pyramid, and all things now are together, and that is when Mexico is brought back into the United States. Mm-hmm. That they would even talk about that at that time, and that was in a letter that you can find published in a book called Fundamental Laws, the 68th Convocation of the Rosicrucians. So here they're projecting what is going to take place. Well, anyway, the Meneses Chronicles, which is supposedly a novel, it's written by someone with a pseudonym, but there's a part in there where they talk about that the United States will be invaded by the old world with capital letters, and that the only thing that really stops it is that there's a geological event that creates so much havoc that most of the soldiers who are here from foreign countries just want to get back to whatever's left of their home. Now, the reason... Let me just interrupt you real quick here. Mm-hmm. Would old Mexico, old South
America, would that be considered Old World? Also, I know that you're probably talking about Europe.
Yeah.
Would that still be called Old World?
No, they're talking, and where I was going with this, in fact, I'll read the excerpt here. How about if I do that? Okay.
Okay.
This is well, it's not a letter, but it's a statement written by R. Swinburne Clymer. Beverly Hall, Quakerstown, Pennsylvania, July 6, 1916. Now, Clymer is the descendant of one of the founding framers. Clymer is a heavy-hitting family in Pennsylvania. And this is what he writes on that 6th of July, 1916. And what is this capstone? And, of course, he's talking about the capstone with the seeing eye that floats above the truncated pyramid. He says, "My reader, prepare for a shock. When Atlantis ruled the world, that which is now America was connected with Egypt by what is now Mexico. And in Mexico, in the territory of Yucatan, there is a pyramid in which the fire philosophers worshipped God as divine, fire, and life, in like manner as did the initiates of Egypt, for the two were then one. America is not complete, and will not be complete, cannot be complete, until Mexico is again," and he italicized again, "part of America as she was in the long ago. And when Mexico is once again part of the United States, then will the capstone have been set on the pyramid, and the reverse side of the United States seal will be cut." Now, that he would write this, and there's other stuff in here too, talking about taking over education. That's a must for them.
I think they're getting pretty successful with that one.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I just got an email from a former librarian at St. Leo's who sent around something about the education system. And I wrote back, and this is a little reply to all stuff. But I said, you got the education. They got the education system they wanted. They're in training, not teaching mode.
Yeah, they're inculcating.
Right.
They're doing, yeah.
And they're talking about the drop in graduation rates, the lack of jobs. Well, look, they don't want thinkers anymore. They'll always have their elite, and they'll always go to the Ivy League schools and such. But for everyone else, it's pretty much, metropolis for them, a very gray, dull life. And this has been coming for some time. And I wrote to him. I said, look, when I read back, I can't understand how the American people, but again, look what's happened to us today, and we don't do anything or feel we can't. How in the world did they let a guy like John Dewey? Now, forget the fact that he's a communist. Who cares? I mean, all right. So you're free to have ideas, but that Dewey and Bloom were all these behavior modificationists, part of this whole cohort that went over to the Wundt Experimental School of Psychology in Germany, came back, and many of them went to the University of Chicago. And what they were into doing is basically Pavlovian education. Now, to give it over to Dewey, I mean, there it goes, right then and there. So, and what does this produce? It produces people that aren't really outfitted for too much. But guess what? If you got a bad economy, if you got jobs at a premium and getting to be fewer all the time, where do you drive young people to go to? The military.
Yep.
And if everything works right for them, they won't have to have a conscription. So they have that military National Service Act. I shouldn't say military, Universal National Service Act, which calls for compulsory service to the country, most likely military, but there's a couple of buts where you can do other things. Mm-hmm. So you here you go. You're raising up a crop of kids to go into a meat grinder, which will be this next war. So anyway, again, he had made comments also in this in the book about the education system. He said, for instance, he goes, all true educators have come to understand that if the public school system is to be retained in the United States, then it will be absolutely necessary for a complete code of ethics to be taught to all scholars, and the Illuminati is the first great school of thought that has ever attempted to formulate such a code of ethics. Just interesting stuff. But where I was going with this also, Terry, is that I got wind of this book, and I did get it, and actually I had a copy sent to me as well from someone else. And in this portrayal of what is going to happen, and the reason I'm paying attention is only because of, for instance, what was stated in that book back in 16. The Rosicrucians also consider themselves superior to Freemasons, and this apparently is the case, especially over in Europe. They were here first. They were around the longest, going back to Bacon and some of the things he said about this America, which was called the New World, the New Atlantis. And so here we're looking at the old world wanting to cut us down to size. Now, the old world to me is basically built on the Vatican and the monarchies.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, they let the Protestants go to the United States. But one day there would be paybacks for that, and we're heading for that. So yes, the author didn't say anything like Vatican. He just called it the old world forces.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if that's what we're going to see. So I think the old world, I guess it's a bit of a conjecture, but old world to me means those who obviously ran a feudal system in Europe, went behind the scenes for a while, but are waiting for their moment to come forward. And the two power centers are certainly the nation-state that is the Vatican, and it's the City of London.
You got it.
And
you got it.
All we ever did in the United States was, instead of paying taxes to the Crown, or the, what was that the I-Man called it too, the British Board of Trade, all we did is throw that off and then get right back into it with the Federal Reserve. So nothing's ever really changed. And those who run this country, who started this country, everybody has this idea that, these guys were like demigods. And that's all hoopla, too. What they were...
They built it for themselves.
Sure they did.
They were rich guys. We were still just the cattle then, and we were then, we are now, so...
Well, in one paragraph, just the opening sentence, where I-Man writes, is it any wonder why we the people, with a capital W and a capital P, and he goes to great lengths to state elsewhere that this use of the capitals for we and the people is not just a style they used in grammar back in the 18th century. He said they stated that to differentiate themselves from we, the little people. Mm-hmm. So he writes, he goes, is it any wonder why we the people rushed to seal the deal between the king and themselves, leaving us, the little people, in the dark? And that's referring to the Constitution, which is a compact, a commercial compact, and it has been allowed for us to believe that we have protection from it. And you know what? I asked the I-Man once, do we not see constitutional rights somewhat respected on, say, a local level, maybe even a state with state law enforcement, but with the feds, it's quite clear they can do whatever they want, and they're well aware of it. And he said, yeah, it's true, because they don't have any idea either what's going on. But that Constitution was made for those individuals who were there to concoct it and to make nice with the crown. And as I-Man's show is up now, as people are hearing this, it's probably moved to the archives. We were talking about... I lost my train of thought. Where was I?
Do that a lot.
Huh?
Yeah, I do that a lot. You're interesting, and I lose my train of thought when I'm talking to you. You're a ball to talk to, I'll tell you that.
Well, all right, I should really go back and take a look at where I was going with all this, and it'll probably come to me like it does. The mind's a terrible thing to lose.
I lost mine, I think. I can almost give you the date, but I won't. All right, go ahead.
No, and so we talked about them being demigods and such, and in the book, I-Man quotes Lysander Spooner is saying, you want to get a good grip on what these people were like, our founding fathers. He goes, think Bush, think Clinton, same old deal.
Yep.
Same scumbags. And, this bit about the Christianity, have you ever seen a politician that's running for office, for federal office, that isn't a Christian?
Oh, I know.
I mean, Hillary Clinton. Yeah.
And they pull it off. That's what kills me. I have very church-going people in my family, and sometimes it's embarrassing that they fall for it. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the things that I'm asking people to do, and those who are Christians especially, and saying, why do you believe this? Why do you believe the stuff you're getting off the mainstream news? Where is it written that these people are telling you the truth? All you know is that you've been pervaded by it. That's all you know. You've been inundated with this stuff, therefore it makes it right, because there's nothing else around, so you think. And I said, why don't you use your discernment? I mean, to take a look at what you're dealing with, and you don't know these people, you don't know anything about this industry, and they're telling you, we're on your side. Kiss my butt, you're on my side. So I'm it's like, folks, stand back and start asking some questions, especially when it comes to this bit about violence in the name of Israel and all this other stuff. Show me where Christ is okay with that. That's all.
Oh, there's boy, I get going on that one too.
Well,
matter of fact, when I was referring to London, I was talking about those people. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you were. Yeah, and they instigated the Civil War. In a number of sources you can read where Britain was fully behind this, and in fact, wanted to come into the war if it interrupted business for too much longer because they couldn't get cotton from the United States. they had to go to India for it, and it was an inferior quality. So they were ticked off because it was ruining business in Great Britain. And in another book called Divided We Fall, which was out of the St. Leo University Press, which has gone the way of nickel candy. But this guy wasn't in any way, shape, or form a conspiracy theorist, but in his book he writes about the fact that Britain said they would build warships for the Union, and they did. And they said, oh, but we won't do it for the Confederates. But they did. What they did was they built the Confederate ships in the whole of Great Britain, but they weren't allowed to put armaments on them.
Yep.
So they let the ships go to an offshore island, and it was there they were outfitted with guns. Hence, they weren't lying to the Union, and they played both sides.
Yeah, they played both sides all the way.
Sure.
Did you ever hear, and I think maybe I-Man even alluded to it, but I heard years and years and years ago that when the British couldn't figure out how to beat people that hid behind trees, they surrendered, but they gave up the cause right at that point, but then said, we'll just take it economically.
Yeah.
And they started exactly on that day. I just got done this winter. There's a new, I've read a few of them, but there's a new, and I think it's the best one so far. Let me grab it right here and I'll tell you who wrote it. It was a biography on Alexander Hamilton, written by Ron Chernow, and it's the most recent one. And Alexander Hamilton, British agent, all the way. All the way. It doesn't say it in that book, though. But if you know what you know and what I know and whatever, and you read between the lines, the guy was he was working, setting up banks on behest of Great Britain, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, listen, we didn't do any election here, but you want to know what? This is more fun to me than the election. Can we schedule another show to do this?
Oh, yeah, we'll pick up with that. That's fine. I mean, you had stated to me before we came on that there were a number of things on your mind, and so they came to the forefront. That's fine. I mean, we'll just pick it up with, another show, a part two, and that's not a problem whatsoever. Did you want to address any other items?
Why, we got some minutes to...
Yeah.
We got some minutes here. You know what? I got a kick out of this. Let me set the stage for it first. When I used to be in my horse racing days, there was this one horse that should have never lost. He did, obviously. It was a pacer. In other words, sulkies. It was up at a racetrack here in western New York State. And it was like such an odds-on favorite that they probably lost money on the race had he won, because it was only going to pay 10 cents to the dollar. Well, I couldn't bet the horse because I didn't have enough money. You'd have to bet thousands just to pick up 100, you know. So I just sat back and watched the race. Well, don't they box him in? They boxed them in. They made two circuits at this track. It was a mile race and it was a half-mile racetrack, Batavia Downs. And they boxed them right in along the rail. They wouldn't let them out. And meanwhile, the second favorite at 5-1. I don't know how much you know about horse races, but that's a big second favorite. And the second favorite at 5-1 had a tremendous lead coming into the stretch. And what do they do at that point? They open up the rail and let the big odds-on favorite go. You can't catch them now, but at least they let them go. What am I getting at there? Brian Paul getting, 16,000 votes, was it, or something? How many votes did he get in Pennsylvania?
Oh, I have no idea. I got to tell you, I'm not even paying attention to it. But
well, no, me neither. Me neither, except when you listen to all the shows we listened to, they mentioned it.
Oh.
Well, everybody was surprised because he never got anything but hundreds in the other places, right? Well, he ain't going any place anymore. They don't have to fear him anymore. So they let him run wild in Pennsylvania. You know, that was their favorite to him. And he had a very respectable showing. I wouldn't vote for the guy personally. Anybody that's running on board is with them as far as I'm concerned. So if anybody really thought Ron Paul was the answer, I can't go for that. But there was something there. They must have feared from him. It can't be much, though, or they'd kill him. So.
Well, I've been listening to Rush Limbaugh when I go out for either bike ride or a skate or whatever. And and use that as representative of what's going on or what we're supposed to, believe. And although he attacks equally Hillary and Obama, in a backhanded way, he is supporting Hillary, and he has said such. It's like, yeah, let Hillary run because we'll kick her ass. So whatever the reason is, he's pushing Hillary. And the reason...
Who are you talking about?
Huh?
Who are you talking?
About Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
He's got this thing called Operation Chaos.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, they fear that she won't get there, so that's what they're pushing. Yeah, you're right. I lost your train of thought there. Now I'm on with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's the reason I say I don't pay attention to the primaries is because what's going to be is going to be. Not that it. Right. I mean, I just tell me when it's over, and we'll see when the dust settles who's standing there. But that's another reason I say that Hillary isn't quitting is because she's going to be shown as some comeback kid, and it's going to go to her.
Oh yeah.
And then it's
winning.
Well, then
the whole thing.
Well, the thing is also then she'll be portrayed as somebody who's resilient, like I said, a comeback kid, and and they'll use that against McCain. McCain, and as you stated the last time you were on, about how they threw the election to Reagan, is that when that's Mondale said, yeah, I am going to raise taxes?
Right.
All right, so therefore he just shot himself in the foot, and that was over with. Well, the same situation with McCain. As this war gets more unpopular, he's going to...
Medicare? Did you hear that one? Go ahead.
No, I mean, just with the bit about expanding the war, and I will keep the war going, now he's shooting himself in the foot.
So, well, he's Bob Dole. I think I brought that up on the last
Bob
show.
Dole, what Bob Dole thinks,
yeah. Bob Dole. He's taking a dive. I mean, and that was one of the things I wrote down from your Friday night show, and I think it might have even been you that said you can't figure out why McCain. Well, why? They won't want to waste any
good ones,
high-profile person in case. Not that McCain isn't high-profile. Don't get me wrong, but McCain's willing to take the dive, and that's just what he's going to do.
Well, given the fact of how people vote for the most part, for the Republicans, in this particular situation, when I look at all the candidates, I mean, the one that would have probably been the best product to sell would have been Romney. Good-looking, glib, and McCain, who looks like, some stone chipmunk. So I can't understand it. But now I think I do, and that's because they're looking for a patsy.
Yep, taking the dive, and he knows that. I mean, he already knows this. It's not like he's going to be told this. He already knows. And it's going to be interesting. Listen, I'm going to have to wrap this up today.
Right.
I hope you didn't mind me saying wrapping this up.
No.
It's your show. But
until it was wildly taken over by you, Sylvester.
But we have another situation going on here where I have to free myself. So.
No problem. Listen, thanks for being with us. But I'll probably build a show with stuff and things.
As what?
Stuff and things. Yep.
I like it.
What garages are full of stuff and things. All right, Terry. Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome, and get back to me as fast as you can.
I will.
And when the next one will be.
Okay.
And plus, one more time, if I can request my email address under the.
Will do.
Okay.
All right, Terry. Thanks a lot for being with us.
And Viz, you can call me anytime. Matter of fact, next time you call me, flip the switch and let's talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care, brother.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.